Hey guys, what's up? So they say that to really understand China, you have to understand China's history. And the same is true for China's cities. They all have their own unique histories and backgrounds. And today I'm here in Tianjin. It's a very hot day here at the end of June. It's close to 40 degrees. And people are even swimming here in the channel. Tianjin has a very interesting history. It is still today one of China's most important cities. It's the fourth biggest in terms of urban population at around 14 million people after Beijing, Shanghai and Guangzhou. And it's been important for a very long time, mainly for two reasons. One is that it's the seaport for Beijing, and the other one is that it's this thing here behind me, the channel. This channel is connected to the Yangtze River. It's also linked to the ocean, and it's also linked to the Grand Canal. And the Grand Canal was a big project that was basically a canal that was built between North and South China. And it was used in the past hundreds, if not thousands of years to bring food and grain from the south up to the north. So for that reason, Tianjin was always a very strategic and important city and a place to control. So today I'm standing here in what used to be the French concession. So it used to be a place where you would have a lot of French people, French-style buildings. You could go and have your croissant and café au lait in the morning. You'll feel like you were in France. And the reason for that was that after the Second Opium War between China and a few Western powers, which China lost, China was forced to grant concessions to these Western powers in Tianjin. So each Western powers like France, Great Britain, Russia and so on were given a small part of the city where they basically created mini versions of their own countries used for trading and for political control of China. So when the French came here in 1860, they realized they needed a nice church. Of course, they were good Catholics. So they built this thing here. Wait, I will show you. You can see over there in the background, that's the, used to be known as the Notre Dame de Victory. It was the first Catholic cathedral that was built in Tianjin. The Catholics had been here for quite a while already. In the decade leading up to the cathedral being built, there was a French priest who became infamous because his specialty was to find sick infants and baptize them before they died so that they could go to heaven. Unfortunately, this made the local population connect Catholic priests with kids and with death. So the image of Catholic priests was not very good. And again, Tianjin was a very rich city and very proud. And they were not really happy in general about all these foreigners coming here. Wait, I gotta show you. Look at this. All these men having a great time in the sun and swimming. Anyway, so the French decided to build this very impressive cathedral. If you see some photos from back in those days, this cathedral was the only big building in this area. So this was the only high-rise basically in those days. It was right at the riverbank, so anybody coming in and out of Tianjin would have seen this building right away. It was basically a power statement, and it was designed to show that we will stay here, and we will stay, and we will control this area, and we will spread Catholicism here. And pretty soon after they built this church, a group of nuns from France also came here. And these nuns were specialized in taking care of infants. Wow, there's a guy actually who jumped down right now. I'm sorry for interrupting the video, but this was just really cool. You see him swimming down there. Wow, awesome. Sorry guys. Anyway, so these nuns came here with the intent to help infants. Wait, I gotta show this. This guy's gonna jump down. He put something in his nose. I don't know what that is. And he's going for it, and oh! Beautiful. All right. So yeah, these nuns came here, and when they came here and they were living in this infirmary, I believe that's the other building next door, they began to look for infants and orphans to put there to help. And the rumor is that they began to give some cash incentives to people to find these kids, because they couldn't find them on their own that easily. And the rumor is that this also incentivized some kidnappers to go and find kids and then bring them there to make some money. But no matter how those kids were found, the rumors began to spread that these nuns were kidnapping local kids and converting them to Christianity. And even worse, there were some very nasty rumors that these nuns were actually killing the kids and then taking their eyes and their intestines to be used for medicine, for Western medicine, which was considered very potent, and that this was somehow like the secret ingredient to these Western medicines. So that was the backdrop. Around the time the church was being built, there was also a drought, which was seen as a very bad sign. So again, nobody here in Tianjin was happy about this church, and nobody was happy about the nuns or the priests that were working there. Occasionally you would have protests at the scene, telling them to release the kids and telling them to stop their evil manners and so on. But nothing really went out of hand until the summer of 1870. So the first event that took place was that the police they found two kidnappers who were suspected of being associated with the church. However, they didn't confess, and they were basically killed. Around the same time, there was a cholera epidemic in Tianjin, so a lot of the kids here began dying. Out of 150 kids, roughly 30-40 kids were dying. And because they were so sick and maybe infectious, and there were so many of them, they were simply sent away by undertakers to nearby swamplands outside Tianjin, where they were buried quite summarily and unceremoniously, sometimes in graves with several kids in the same grave. And what happened was that maybe some animals dug them up or some birds were picking on them. People went there and they saw these kids, and these like ideas and images again of Catholics killing kids and using their body parts for medicine began to spread. People became very afraid. They began to lock their doors, telling the kids they can't be outside to play at night because they might be kidnapped by the Catholics, etc. You get the point. So things were looking really bad. And then around the 20th of June, or in the days leading up to that, one kidnapper was found, again, caught barehanded. And perhaps knowing what happened to the previous kidnappers who were killed, he supposedly confessed that he was working for the Catholic Church to kidnap kids. And this confession was spread to the population here in Tianjin. People were going absolutely crazy. Oh, ni hao. Yeah, I'm not going there with my clothes, bro. Maybe I'll come back here another day and bring my swimming pants. Anyway, people were going crazy. They were losing their minds, and they were fed up. They had enough with these evil Catholics. So they all came down here in front of the cathedral. They were furious. They were throwing rocks at the windows. They were trying to break in the doors. You had a few scared nuns inside, a few scared priests. They were terrified, of course, and there was no help to be had because there were so many protesters, and nobody had seen this coming. So the French consul, who was also based nearby in the consulate, he wanted to get some help from the local police, but apparently he didn't feel the police was acting quick enough. So he pulled his gun and he began threatening that he would shoot people and that he would take matters to his own hands. He was furious. It didn't work. And then somehow he was here in front of the church. He was close to the river, somewhere here on the pontoon. There was a mob all around him. He saw the local magistrates, and maybe out of desperation, out of fury, they say that he tried to shoot the magistrate. So he pulled out the gun and he shot. He missed the magistrate, and instead he hit his assistant who died on the spot. And upon this shooting, the crowd, they lost it, and they simply attacked the consul and his associates, and they brutally murdered them right here. And then they threw their bodies into the river. Ironically, they found out later that this guy who claimed to be working for the church was lying. He didn't know anybody in the church, and his descriptions about the church were completely wrong. But they found out too late to tell the crowd, and the crowd was already very upset. They were furious. They wanted to finish this menace once and for all. So they simply ran here towards the infirmary, which I believe is this building right here. The nuns were inside, a few other people working for the church were inside. They broke in the doors, and the saying is that they raped the nuns, and they also brutally killed them. All in all, 10 nuns, who they then threw out also down the river. Today actually it's, here you see, this is the English name, Our Lady of Victory Church. And here we see the courtyard. It's actually a hospital today. Maybe it's still somehow affiliated with the church, if there's a cross on top of it. Anyway, so they killed basically everybody they could find. They burnt down the church. It was completely demolished. Only a year after it was finished. They kept going and destroyed 4 more churches in Tianjin, and all in all they killed around 60 people that day. And that's the incident. That's the Tianjin massacre. You can see here. So actually in Chinese it's called Wang Hai Lo, which means that it's the tower where you can see the sea. And it makes sense because back in those days it was by far the highest building in this area, where probably you can't see the sea from. So after it was destroyed, it was left a ruin for around 30 years. And then it was rebuilt again, only to be destroyed the year or so after that in the Boxer Rebellion. But they didn't give up, and they rebuilt it a second time a few years after that. And that's the version we see here today. Actually, it has similarities with the Notre Dame in Paris, if you can see that. It's very clearly a French church. Very beautiful. And they say that this design is basically the same as the original version, so wouldn't have been any difference. So in the aftermath of these events, of course the French were furious, and the European powers were also furious. But there wasn't really that much they could do. The French were already in a war in Europe with Germany in 1870. And the Chinese, they sent a delegation to Europe to apologize. They arrested the people that were allegedly behind the massacre, and they were executed. And then they also gave like a big penalty to the French. So that was that. And of course, this was like in a way a foreshadowing of the Boxer Rebellion that happened 30 years later. And it showed that colonizing China was not maybe as easy as the European powers had once thought. This was a very big bite to chew. Anyway guys, this was all for today. I hope you guys learned something. And I apologize if I got anything incorrect, and also for the interruptions with the guys who were swimming before. This is definitely a serious topic, and of course I feel very sorry for the people that were killed here and that suffered. But anyway, it's a part of history, and not that well known, I would say, in the West. So at least I'm here today talking about it, so these people are not forgotten. Anyway guys, thank you, and see you next time.